All right. Hey there, Modern Math teacher. I am so excited to be with you guys today to kick off August and back to school poolside PD. And today I am joined by Juliana Tapper. And I am so excited because she is going to help me in real life, real time, plan my math intervention class. So, Juliana, welcome. If you want to tell everyone a little bit about you, I am so glad you're here.
Yeah, I am so excited for this. I'm Juliana Tapper, and I am passionate about students who struggle with math. I have taught high school math intervention in South Central Los Angeles, East San Jose, and Denver. Now I work with schools and districts all over the U.S. and juvenile justice departments and all the things to help with the math intervention situation. And I'm the author of the book Teaching 612 Math Intervention.
Yes, I know. I'm very excited. So proud of that book. It's actually upstairs. I thought about that as we jumped in. I was like, it's upstairs where I was doing my actual planning earlier.
Right.
So that's fine. So I'm really excited, you guys. I have worked in the intervention program at my school for probably the last 3 years or so. And Juliana and I met, I don't know, in like 2020. We started connecting over education things. And so I first went to her when we were redesigning our program. And I had GeoPro Lab last year, as a lot of you guys know, and this year I'm back to Algebra 1, and, we're adopting a new curriculum. We've got illustrative mathematics. So right away, I'm like, oh, I can't use what I used 3 years ago. I'm still going to use some of those best things, like Math Wars is 100% coming into play. I'm very excited to bring that back with algebra instead of geometry this year. So Juliana is here to help me plan, and you guys are all here to join us for the ride.
Yes, I am so excited to be here.
Awesome. All right. So I should probably give you all a little bit of context, you guys. So if you're new to me, you don't know me, but I am on a 3-day block schedule. And what that looks like for us is that I see all of my students on Monday for about 50 minutes. And then I see them again either Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday. And I've got 85 minutes with them then. So I've got 3 days a week with these students. I am teaching our Algebra 1 Proficiency Lab. And in the past, we've only ever had like one section at a time. And you guys, we're coming in hot with 3 sections this year. Okay, so I've got 3 sections, I've got a new curriculum, I've got weird meeting times, and our district also wants us to be using IXL to help supplement those skills. So I knew the only person I could ask to help me muddle through this was Juliana. So Juliana, my dear, if this is your classroom, like, what are your initial thoughts?
Yes, my first question is for you're calling it Algebra Pro Lab, right?
Yes.
Okay, so are you their only math teacher?
No, they will also have just a regular grade level Algebra 1 class with another teacher. There are 3 different teachers, so I will have a combination of all of their kids.
Okay, so they're gonna have math every single day for 85 minutes.
Potentially, or some kids will unfortunately see me and their Algebra 1 teacher on the same
The
day,
same
and they're
day
going to have 170 minutes of math that day.
of
And
math.
yeah, yep,
Wonderful. Okay, so
agreed.
that is really helpful to know upfront because I think, for other people that are listening, that's always a big question is like, is intervention considered additional or is it just like, we know all the kids failed and this is their only math class? You just have all the kids that failed middle school math. And so, like, I've personally taught both of these situations, but I think that's like an important piece of clarity because some of the things that I'm going to recommend for you to do would not be what I recommend if you're the core teacher or you're the only teacher that
Okay.
that sees your kids. And so yeah, I just want to like start off with that from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. Great clarification. Because you're right. It is different, and I did recognize that in your book, and I referenced that to someone I chatted with last week. I jumped on a call with somebody, and I was like,
Yeah.
"You need just-in-time intervention, and this is how you do
Yeah.
it. You should go read Juliana's book, and this
Yeah.
page is where you're going." So
Love it. Exactly. Exactly. And
awesome.
then I think the other thing, when we are the teacher that is teaching an additional period of math,
Yeah.
we need to really be aware of the mindset that our kids are in because they are not probably, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they are not happy to be taking math twice because they probably
Yeah,
already know that they probably already consider themselves not a math person in quotation marks, right? They probably
absolutely.
already have a lot of negative feelings about math. And I know that you're reading math therapy right now.
Yes.
I've been seeing that on Instagram. And so it's like in my bookshelf right here, if you can see it.
Yep. Yeah, I see the
Um,
hot pink right there. It's also
you see
upstairs
it?
in my books
Yes.
I'm reading pile.
Exactly right. I cannot recommend that book enough for if you are teaching this additional math period, you really need to read that book. And even if your entire first week is just a mix of activities from my book and Vanessa's book
Yeah.
to really just understand how your kids are feeling about math, that is like the number one most important thing you can do because these kids are being put in two periods of math. They don't
Yes.
even want to be in one period of math. And so I really feel like the goal of when you have a double blocked intervention situation, the goal is for them to have a positive experience in a math class. You know,
100%.
that's
100%.
the
I need
number
them
one
to have,
goal.
yes,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
so it's like, if nothing else, they need to have a positive experience in that intervention class so that it doesn't feel like discipline. It doesn't feel like they're, being disciplined,
Right.
and that's why they're there. Instead, like, you need to make it feel fun, and that starts with having them share their like math anxieties with you, math
Yes.
traumas with you. It's all over Vanessa's book, it's in the beginning of my book as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like, students with math anxiety, when they just see numbers, when they come in, when they just see a warm up in our classrooms,
Yeah.
their amygdala becomes hyperactive. And when our amygdala is hyperactive, that's that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so we need to actively be doing activities that are going to calm that amygdala down before we even get to the math. And so I love to just like take some time at the beginning of the year to just build that community that's going to calm the
Yes.
amygdala.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
there's also studies that show, I think the two most important things that we know from research about math anxiety is that when students write about their math anxieties, it frees up more working memory in the brain. So we have to do a mathography. We have to have them
Mm-hmm.
express that. We also know that when we value the different ways students think and reason, that helps math anxiety disappear. And so, how can we choose, especially warm ups? So, I would suggest in your intervention class,
Yeah.
all of your warm ups should be like the six core engagement structures that I talk about in the book, which are
Mm-hmm.
like, which one doesn't belong, same and different, notice and wonder, all these things that allow you to value the different ways students think and reason. And when we start with that, and then I've also been adding in, especially for an intervention class
Yeah.
where students are probably also, they're struggling with grade level content, but they're probably also struggling with some foundational concepts.
Yep. That's my kids.
Yeah. And so I would say you need to do number talks and number strings. I've
Yes.
been getting really into number strings recently. And so I think like those should always be your warm ups. It should never be like 5 questions, 6 questions reviewing what we did yesterday. Because if your kid was absent yesterday, they're going to be left out from the start. So
Mhm.
always those community building warm ups and warm ups that help facilitate true number sense and not just memorization and a focus on speed of those foundational facts.
I love that you're saying that. And number talks are something that, like, honestly have always kind of scared me. Like, I know what they are and I feel like I've done them before, but I don't know them enough. So then in your book, when I was rereading it and you referenced that, I was like, okay, who did she write? Because a lot of the number talk things that we see are geared towards elementary. And then you
Yeah.
pointed us in to the direction of, who wrote the number books for grades 4 through 10? I have it upstairs. And then I got making number talks matter and like making number
Yeah.
talks matter more. They're blue and purple and they are
Yep.
also in my stack with those two books.
Upstairs. Yeah, and so I've been like really on this like number talks kick. I have like not a YouTube presence, but it is a helpful place to share things. So I actually literally last week recorded a number talks YouTube thing and a number strings YouTube thing. So we could link that for
Yeah.
everyone and you can check it out. Um, Because yeah, it's like, how do we do this in secondary with kids that typically shut down around these topics? Because the whole idea, like, there's one that I do all the time in my professional development sessions with schools, and it's 18 times 5.
Okay.
And so if a kid were to walk into your classroom and just see 18 times 5 on the board, that's a lot more welcoming than seeing like a drill and kill worksheet of 30 multiplication problems.
Absolutely.
And the idea is we want them to think deeply about it, and we want to value all the different ways they're going to see 18 times 5. And like every time I do this with even a group of teachers, I am like, what? Your brain works that way? Like, it's amazing to see. And I did number talks with my high school kids all the time.
Yeah.
And they loved it. It was a little, I will give the warning that it's a little bit hard at the beginning because they might not know any other strategies to multiply 18 times 5 except the algorithm.
Right.
And so you may need to like show them some strategies,
Okay.
but
Okay.
then they will start to see more patterns and it will take off from there. But I would say the maybe first 1 or 2 times that you do a number talk,
Yeah.
it might not be this amazing moment, but by the third time, like you got to try it at least 3 times.
Okay, guys, you've heard it.
Yeah.
You've got to try something at least 3 times to see how it goes. Because first time, I'm learning it. They're going to be learning it. The second time, I'm like, okay, I'm going to feel a little bit better about coaxing out a few more ideas. And then by the third
Yes,
time, hopefully they understand that I'm not giving up on this strategy. And we're going
exactly.
to keep going forward. Okay, I love this. So
Ex-
starting
So
strong with some sort of like one of those 6 engagement strategies. I love which one doesn't belong, the same and different. And then the idea of number talks.
yes,
Beautiful. I
those
think
should
that's a
always be
great
your warm
way.
up.
Yeah, I
And
love it. And
even with an
then,
85-minute block period,
yeah.
if you need
Oh
to
my
do
gosh.
another one in the middle of that as kind of a brain break,
Ooh.
do another one as a brain break, especially with like which one doesn't belong, same and different, notice and wonder, how
Yes.
many, those things. You could even bring in, a picture of from your summer vacation.
Yeah.
And the prompt could be, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And it allows the kids to get to know you and build that community. And it also is a total break from math for a minute, but you're still practicing a math structure. And so, you don't have to always have it be a math, which one doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Even on the very popular which one doesn't belong website, there's ones with like boats and canoes. There's ones
Yeah.
with sports logos. And so it doesn't need to, maybe your brain break is not math related, or even the one at the start of the period could be not math related.
I love that so much. And I think I've got your correct me if I'm wrong, but on TPT you've got like a fall back to school one, and it's got like the different colored pencils.
Yep,
And okay, yeah, I've definitely used that with my intervention classes, and they were like, "Why are we doing this?" I'm like, "Because we're learning the structure before we put any math to it, you guys." I'm like, "I just want you
exactly.
to notice which one you think doesn't belong, or like use the same picture." And I'm like, "What do you notice and what do you wonder about these 4 images?"
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And so I think that is so important. And with the longer period, it's important to think of like, how can we break this up a little bit? Because that's a lot of math for the kids.
It is so much
Um,
time.
so much time, so much time. So then my other question is, does your department, so that's the beginning, but
Yeah.
then does your department do a pretty good job of staying on pace together? Or like, will all the algebra teachers kind of be all over the place? The core algebra teachers.
Yeah. So with our new curriculum adoption, they are trying really hard to stay on pace with one another, which is great. For
Great.
me, because I know last year when we were in the piloting process and I had geometry, I had one teacher on the new geometry and one on the old. And 85 minutes was great because I taught half of a class each time.
Oh
I was
man.
like,
Oh
all right,
man.
but
Yes.
everyone should be on the same pace for me here.
Okay, good. So that's really important because you already mentioned that like I really love a just-in-time approach to intervention
Hmm.
instead of a just-in-case.
Yes.
And so when we can think of just-in-time intervention like a staircase. Just-in-case is like we're filling potholes and we're just gonna remediate and fill all the missing links. So like someone who's doing a just-in-case intervention for a situation like yours would be like, okay, so I'm gonna go get a 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade book, and I'm gonna go through all of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in that additional period. There's just more and more research coming out that that is not the most effective way to do intervention. I
Absolutely.
really love the new research that's out by TNTP called Coherence by Design.
Ooh.
That's a great resource to read as an intervention teacher because it talks about to be an effective intervention program, it needs to be coherent with the core program. So,
Absolutely.
and just in case, and this is what I say all the time, just in case is inherently not coherent because it doesn't matter. It's like a just in case program just goes on its own trajectory and you just do the thing and then you do the next thing. A just in time intervention program that is coherent with the core curriculum is going to go like the goal is that if you know that next week your core algebra teacher is starting equations,
Yeah.
then you know that, okay, that means the week before I need to do the foundational work for equations so that when my kids see it in core algebra,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I got this. Because I will tell you right now, illustrative math for Algebra 1, it is a high quality instructional resource. So it is going to start at the grade level standard.
Yes.
It is going to start, I believe it starts with like, I don't know if this is like unit 1, but like it starts with multi-step like variables on both sides, right? Let's just say that that is where the
Hmm.
core resource starts. As an intervention teacher, my students didn't even know what a variable was,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and
And
that's what I'm
so,
going to be facing. Some students who have, not all of them, right, but some of my students will have failed one or more semesters of middle school math. And unfortunately,
mhm,
I think this system's true everywhere. They just get pushed through.
yes, they do until high school. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it matters. And it
And
puts
then
a
it's my
lot of
fault.
pressure on us as high school teachers to all of a sudden be like, sorry to be the bad guy, but you don't just move on to 10th grade math. Like it's not
Yeah.
10th, ninth grade math, 10th grade math anymore. If you don't pass algebra 1, you repeat algebra 1, you know? And so it's a very
Yeah.
different situation for them. So it's important that it's great that like your department is going to be sort of on pace with each other because that is going to help you as the intervention teacher be able to prepare them ahead of time. And
Yeah.
it's always kind of hard with the first unit because we're community building. The core
Hmm.
teachers may just jump into content a little bit earlier. So
I
like
know.
allow for a little like uncomfortableness in unit 1. But
Yeah.
like, you want to think about, okay, in my core resource, I want to think about a staircase, and I'll show you a visual for anyone who watches this on YouTube. But you want to think of a staircase visual, and at the top of the staircase, that's where you started actually. You start at the top and you
Okay.
put your high quality instructional, like what is the standard? What is the essential grade level standard? And even if you need to see it as an example problem or something from illustrative math, you're going to put that at the top. And then
Yeah.
you're going to ask yourself, I need to go back one staircase. What's like one scaffold or what's one thing that my kids, in order to be able to be successful at this grade, the highest grade level rigor, what's something that maybe my kids haven't mastered yet that they need to be successful? And so you think about that. And I'm like, in my mind, I think of, well, they need to be able to do like multi-step equations. Okay. How about
Yeah.
in order to do multi-step equations, do we need another scaffold for that? Yes, we need, my kids don't know how to do two-step equations.
Right.
Okay, do we need another scaffold for that? Okay, one-step equations. Also on this trajectory is like, well, if they're going to be able to do multi-step equations, we need to be able to distribute. And we also need to be able to combine like terms.
Yep.
And so this is something, this like trajectory, this staircase that we're creating is something you will never find in a published curriculum
I
because in
know.
order to be rated as high quality, they cannot have prior grade level standards. Sometimes I have seen high quality instructional resources like things that have all green on ed reports. They do go down to like for Algebra 1, they do have maybe one example of a one step, one example of a two step, one example of a
Yeah.
multi-step, and then it's variables on both sides time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
As a
no one,
former Ed Reports reviewer, I
yeah,
can attest to that. If we
yes,
saw middle school material in there, we're like, no, this is high school.
yep,
We have high expectations for our students. And what I love about so many of the things that you teach with your just in time intervention and not that just in case is that you maintain those grade level expectations for your students. You maintain that rigor,
yes.
right? And
The
that's so
rigor is
key.
Yes, the rigor is the most important part, and making sure that we are, and in this intervention class, your goal is to get them ready for the rigor that they're going to see in the core class. So like
Yes.
this is sort of a delicate dance because if anyone listening is the core teacher, but they're like, I all my kids are no none of my kids know variables and I'm their only math teacher. I don't have the ability to have an additional period. So if you're the core teacher, you need to not only teach the staircase, but then you need to once that staircase ends, you need to use your high quality instructional resource to teach the grade level standard and the grade level expectation. So that's a lot for those teachers who are the core teacher trying to do intervention and core in the same amount of time. You
Okay.
have the beautiful situation of having an additional intervention period. So in that case, I'm okay recommending that your goal for your intervention class is the staircase, so
Okay.
that when they get to the top step in their core class, they're ready to succeed there because they have been adequately scaffolded to get there, to get to success at grade level rigor, if that is making sense.
That makes so much sense to me.
Okay.
And I love that you say that because you like with illustrative math, they as a curriculum company did recognize that Algebra 1 might need some extra supports for all their
Mm-hmm.
students. So they actually have an entire extra support Algebra 1
Yep.
curriculum that I have access to. And I like that it follows the same format as one of my illustrative math lessons would. It's got, a warm up and a couple of activities, but I don't want it to just mirror their exact Algebra 1 class. I agree I
Yes.
want a warm up, and I love
Yep.
your thought on like try these 6 structures instead because they'll
Mm-hmm.
get exposure to other ones in their Algebra 1 class, which is great. So I know which one doesn't belong is always a great quick one to introduce. So that is personally what I plan on doing for at least 2 weeks. Like, hey, let's just all get really good at this one. And
Yeah.
then I want to combine like doing their activities in my class so that they get comfortable with like what is it like to learn through an activity, but
Yeah.
also giving that staircase. I love what you were saying there. Like, here's where they're getting to. I can see it because I've got the support materials. What steps do I need to be building in my 85 minutes to help get them ready for that?
And I would be so curious, like with equations as an example, I
Yeah.
would be so curious. I love that illustrative math now has those support resources.
Yes.
This
Me
is
too.
what I have struggled to find in non-teacher created materials is that I'm kind of assuming that illustrative math for the support stuff for equations,
Yeah.
does it just have like one step, two step, multi-step? Is that kind of if you can look at it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I am triple screening it here
Yep, you're triple
to
screening.
everybody who's here. Let me see if I go look at
Like what
equation.
I guess what I'm
Yeah.
asking is while you look at that, what
Yeah.
I'm curious about is does it just go to one step equations or does it include like distributive property and combining like terms? Because I feel like that
Yeah.
if you're just like a textbook company, you might not actually have the understanding of, oh, wait, hold on. In order to do this, there's some other things that are not really technically kind of part of that
Right.
strand, that I feel like I have personally just learned from year after year after year of teaching equations to students who don't know what a variable is.
Oh my gosh.
And how can we, and I will tell you by the end of that unit, my kids are doing the grade level rigor, right? My kids are doing solving equations with variables on both sides. They are solving complex equations, even when we start at, let's talk about what a variable is. Let's talk about what like terms
Right.
are.
Right.
These
What
kids
are the
can
different
do it.
pieces of it? What is a coefficient? What does that mean? What does
Yes.
it mean to distribute? Do I even need to distribute? Or is this a
Yeah.
case where I don't need to?
So I
Um,
would just be curious whether you see it now or you can fill us
yeah.
in later.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of like maybe there's like a two-stepper in here to
Okay.
rearrange. But I know I was looking at their Are You Ready assessment, which I get to use in my intervention class. So I'll be doing that for all of my 60 kids. And that I know has distributing and combining like
Okay.
terms, and like they're going
Good.
to need to know how to do those things.
Yes. And it would be good to know that ahead of time. And so, I mean, this is sort of like a sidestep, and then we'll get back to the main conversation.
Yeah.
But since you brought up assessment here, I think this is a good place to say, before we started recording, you were talking about diagnostic data. So I feel like that's an
Mhm.
important piece of the puzzle that we should share with everyone. So
Yes.
tell everyone
Yeah.
what you were saying about that.
Absolutely. Okay. So I have all of these students have been recommended into this program. That's based on a combination of different scores in their classes, teacher recommendation, and then diagnostic scores. And so I know that a lot of my students are coming to me with low range scores for NWEA and the PSAT. And so one of the goals of our intervention course of course is to help bolster those scores up
Yeah.
back more in line with their peers. And one of the tools that I have to use to help me with that is the IXL.
Yes. Okay. And so I think it's really important to just talk about diagnostic data for a minute when you're an intervention teacher, because it can be very education and so many schools really pride themselves on being data driven.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes with intervention that can really do more harm than good, because expectations of the teachers of what the kids can do matter so much. So
Yeah.
I personally did not even look at my kids' diagnostic data. Yes,
Ooh.
my school, my district mandated that I give kids a test, on like the third day of school or something,
Yep.
which is like, talk about, I've been trying to build this positive community and then you're making me give them a standardized test on day 3. Like, this is not
I know it's
helping the
already in our
situation these days.
calendar. I'm like, oh
But
God.
I told them, you guys, I'm not going to look at this. I'm literally going to throw these scores in the trash. I'm not going to look at your scores because I believe you can do grade level math. So that's what we're going to do in here. We have to give this test. It's mandated. I'm not even going to look at the data because I really do think it does more harm than good, because surprise, I can already tell you what my diagnostic data is going to say. My diagnostic data is going to say my kids are at a 4th grade, 5th grade level.
Yep.
But I am now committed to just-in-time intervention. So it does me no good to know that they are at a 4th grade and a 5th grade level, because it doesn't matter. I'm still going to plan with a staircase, and I'm going to plan based on the algebra standards that my kids need to master and go backwards from there. I'm going to backwards plan from my algebra core standards.
I love that.
And so it doesn't really matter what happens on diagnostic data. I love this idea of what illustrative math has built in. What did you call them?
They are the check your readiness assessments, and they have them for every unit. And I will be very honest, we gave them only one time. Maybe 2 times last year, because as a classroom teacher, I just didn't have time to get through it. So when I suggested doing it in the intervention class, they were like, yes, you do that. You look at where their skills are. This one is 7 problems, and I don't know that I would use all 7 of the problems. But yeah. So it's not too bad.
I love a good 3 to 5 question pre-assessment. I love a good 3 to 5 question pre-assessment.
Love it.
To really know, because we don't want to assume that all my kids don't know what a variable is, right? I'm making some assumptions in this conversation. But like, you want to know that about your kids. I knew that about my kids, but do you know that about your kids? So you want to create a pre-assessment that's actually going to help you on that trajectory. Like, okay. I want to know, can they combine like terms? Can they do distributed property? Could they do 1-step and 2-step equations? Like, if I know who in my intervention class knows those things, that's going to help me plan my staircase for those kids. And that's why it's really hard. Like, I can't recommend, there's no just-in-time intervention program, because it is so based on your kid's data and your kid, like what your kids know about that essential content, that essential core grade level content. And so it's really hard to have a program, because I don't want to mistakenly assume that your kids don't know what a variable is. Maybe your kids do. Maybe your kids know how to combine like terms. Maybe your kids know how to distribute. Maybe it's just the 1-step and 2-step where they need to start on this stair step, right? But maybe for some other teachers, they do need to go back to combining like terms. And so you need to know where your kids need to start on this staircase.
Okay, I'm loving this.
Giving that short pre-assessment is key to not making assumptions about what your kids don't know. We want to have an asset mindset about all of what our kids do know. And we want to say, okay, what do you know? Do we know these foundational things, or do we not yet? And it's okay if you don't, because like that pre-assessment wouldn't be graded, right? And so it's going to help me see where I need to start my lesson plans.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm loving this, and I can like literally just picture me with with having this drawn out for all
Yeah.
of my like major units or the big ideas that I know they need to master. And I know
Yeah.
you give a great resource in your book for the Algebra 1 teachers on like what are those foundational prerequisite skills that can help me
Yeah.
with that. And just giving them that diagnostic and writing on each step like where the different kids are so I can pull small
Mhm.
groups because I've got 85 minutes. That's a freaking long time. No one
It is
wants
a
to hear
long
me
time.
talk for 85 minutes. No one wants to do one thing for 85 minutes.
No, you have to keep it moving. And so, yeah, so I feel like we've kind of, and you know what? Let me share my screen
Yeah.
so so we can visualize this a little bit. So what I have done is like I've actually like created these for algebra because I always taught algebra intervention. And so I literally, I start at the top. So this example is our game plan for equations. I start at step 7. In my opinion, my kids needed 7 steps before we could get to variables with both sides. And they needed, kind of 2 types of that. We had multi-step equations, exactly what we just went through,
Yeah.
right? All the way down to combining like terms. And so what I want to think about is like for each one of these stair steps, I want to do probably like a mini lesson in which I would use Math Wars. You could also use a task, whatever you want to use for
Okay.
instruction there. And then I would do some activities like I love scavenger hunts because they get the kids
Mm.
up and moving. So scavenger hunts are like my number one go-to. I also love cut and paste activities because they're like somewhat kinesthetic. The kids are cutting and pasting and like working on that. I
Yeah.
also love doing like mini whiteboards where you can kind of just do the you do as a team portion, the collaboration portion
Yeah.
of Math Wars, just over and over and over again for that like repetition. And then, I know we want to bring in tasks for intervention. We want to bring in those high quality things. I personally found that it was more helpful if I front loaded with a little bit more like systematic instruction and
Yeah.
doing the Math Wars up front and then doing the task. I know some people would prefer to do the task and then do the more systematic instruction, but for my kids personally, what I preferred was more systematic instruction in the front, and then let's do the task that helps them put it all
Mm.
together. But you could reverse those. So we want to be doing those sorts of things on each one of these steps. And so linear functions, right? Here's another example of linear functions. So I started with like word problems that's like the very high
The
rigor
Mecca.
for algebra,
Yep.
right? And so the idea is to help kind of narrate through this for people who are just listening to the podcast, stair 7 is the word problems. We also have standard form. We have graphing and slope intercept form. We
Yes.
have counting slope, calculating slope,
Yep.
slope intercept form intro, and we also have plotting points because my students didn't personally know how to plot points. It's really hard to plot a line if you don't know how to plot a single coordinate point. And
Absolutely.
so we needed to start there. And so we want to be thinking about which activities can I put in here. And then the
Mm.
idea is that this might be your plan for your intervention so the idea is that whenever you want to stick with your pacing for illustrative math.
Yeah.
So whenever is the linear functions unit in illustrative math,
Mm-hmm.
you want to think about 1 or 2 weeks before when the core teacher is starting the linear functions unit,
Yes.
1 or 2 weeks before you want to be starting on this staircase so that your kids have seen this whole staircase before they get to the linear functions unit in their core class. Because then once they get there in their core class, they're more likely to be successful. And that's like how it's being coherent together because they're going
Mm.
to go through the stairs with you. And then we're off to our high quality instructional resource. We're ready to access our grade level math at the top. It's like this would be like the staircase is supplemental.
Yeah.
But then the high quality instructional resource is what you do after the staircase.
Okay. This is why I had to have you on because I'm sitting here with like I've got access to the whole support book and I'm like, but it's kind of more of the same. Sure, some of it is kinesthetic, which I agree. I think they definitely need that in my class, but a lot of it is like the same format. And I'm like, they're going to
Yeah.
need a different format. Right? I just know
Right.
this. I've taught this class before with different instructional materials. But but I just knew that. And that's why I was like, that's literally, you guys, if you don't know, I just texted her and I was like, I have a new class that I have to teach and I have to do something with it. And I really just need you to come on the podcast and plan with me so I don't have to do it by myself. And that's how we got here, you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so now how does IXL fit into that?
Yes, I need to know because I have to use it.
Yeah, so I think sometimes IXL, most times, I think teachers use IXL as a just in case intervention model.
Yeah.
They do the online diagnostic from IXL. The IXL makes a custom path for the kids, and oh, this is going to fill all your gaps from 4th grade to Algebra 1, which when we look back on the research on math anxiety, a digital platform is not the way to do that. Like, I can think of nothing more that is going to ignite their math anxiety. But I do believe IXL can be used as a tool for just in time when you control how it's used. So what you want to do is you want to build those staircases for all of your units that your kids are going to see for illustrative math. So you want to backwards plan all those staircases for the units. And then you want to think about what IXL activities could you assign that go with each level of the staircase.
Okay.
So when you use it like that, when you select the activities that your kids are doing, and there's also a way on IXL, you can hide the grade level. So the kids won't know, oh, I forget how to toggle it on, but like you can hide the grade level so that when the kids come in and open their IXL, they're like, they don't see that this says 5th grade or they don't see that this says 6th grade. And so that's really helpful because that points to the mindset piece because they know they've seen this before. So that is one way that you can use IXL is just like when you're assigning them things for each level of the staircase. Generally, I really don't love putting kids on computers for intervention.
Sure.
I personally had a lot of kids that said, Miss, I do not want to do IXL. My teacher last year did IXL every single day. I cannot be on IXL ever again. They had like PTSD from being on the computers too much.
Oh, I know.
And yeah. And so we want to avoid that. Let me just like caveat that by saying that. I understand that some schools are like, you have to be using IXL. So if that's the case, I would say try to use it in a just-in-time way where you're assigning things that are on that learning trajectory towards grade level mastery. You're not assigning, like, my example for Algebra 1 is always this. An 8th grade essential standard is scientific notation. For my kids to be successful in Algebra 1, I do not care if they know scientific notation. Sorry to like if that upsets anyone. But like
sorry, chemistry teachers.
Sorry. Like for my kids to be successful at Algebra 1, which is the gatekeeper in education.
Yep.
If they know scientific notation or not is not what's going to get them to pass Algebra 1. And so with a just-in-time intervention model, my kids are not going to get any instruction on scientific notation. If you had put them on a custom path from IXL, they're probably going to have a whole unit on scientific notation. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, like we don't want to assign scientific notation if we're the algebra intervention teacher. We want to assign the things that are, we want to assign combining like terms. We want to assign distributive property. Those are all prior grade level things. Right. So we can assign them in IXL, but what I would also really encourage you to do is like use that to like create your practice problems for Math Wars.
Ooh.
So like I love to, because IXL, when you're logged in as a teacher, you can change the difficulty level, right?
Right. Yeah. And absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Like you can jump forward in the difficulty level. And so sometimes when I'm short on plan time, which let's be honest, that's all the time. Sometimes what's really helpful with IXL is that I can go to something like combining like terms, and I can see how does IXL scaffold this? How do they systematically chunk this? And then I can use those as my Math Wars chunks to help expedite my planning process.
You are right. And I have Math Wars. Yeah, I've got IXL up on screen number 3 over here because I was like, okay, what are we looking at? And I pulled up like a distributive property, right? Because that's something we need. Yep. And you're right. I can go through and I can see they've got like 4 different levels of how to maybe use or write the distributive property. And that is definitely something I could either assign them to do or that I could take myself and design and use that Math Wars method with it.
Yes, exactly. And I think
Okay.
I would want to encourage most intervention teachers to use IXL as a planning tool and help them with the chunking
Ooh.
as opposed to assigning them on it too much. I
Yeah.
think the times when it's great to assign IXL is when you need to pull small groups, right? Like
Hmm.
if you do your short 3 to 5 question pre-diagnostic for
Yeah.
the unit and you see that 5 of your kids are at the very bottom step, and then it starts to be like 15 of your kids are at like 1 step equations, but you've got 5 kids that need these bottom 2 steps. You pull those 5 kids to do a small group with you while the rest of the kids reinforce those 2 steps on IXL, right? Like, because they've
Yeah.
already shown you that they know how to do it, but let's practice that a little more. You could include some 1, 2 step equations in there if you want, but that can also be really frustrating when they are assigned something that you haven't taught them yet. I think that's a good use case for putting them on computers when you need to pull small groups. Like if your admin is requiring it, your admin is requiring it. And so let's use it well. But yeah, does your admin have a time requirement for you, like X number of minutes per week?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Because some people do. Some schools are like your kids need to be logging X number of minutes per week on IXL. So you might be able to get away with more of like using it to help you plan,
Yeah.
as opposed to like the kids needing to be on it, which
Okay.
would be good because I think that's a more powerful way to use it. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm glad we talked about how I can use IXL. I also, if anybody does have it, it can be really great on sub days because you can put a challenge on there to see how many skills they can level up, and then they can just pick and choose. And sometimes on a sub day, that's what they need. Um,
Yes.
But yeah, and I love it. I can even go in and I can see, I can see it aligned to illustrative math. I can also see it
Yep.
aligned to the NWEA and the PSAT. And so I know, if my kids are low in what's this subcategory? I was just in there. I don't know, creating equations and inequalities. Well, look at that. Writing linear equations in standard form is probably already on my stair step that I've created and is
Exactly.
something that is going to help bolster that area at the same time. So it's all going to work in harmony. So it's
Yes.
not extra work. It's an extra
Yep.
resource to support me in the work.
And I
Mm.
think there's one part of intervention that we haven't talked about yet. Do we have time to
Yeah,
snag
let's do
that
it.
in? Okay.
Let's do it.
So I think like sometimes we call it just in time intervention. Sometimes it's called acceleration, instead of remediation.
Yeah.
And as an intervention teacher, when I first heard the word acceleration, I was like, yeah, you don't get it. Like, I don't know what you're accelerating here, but like we're far behind. So this does not feel appropriate to me. But what I've come to learn about the word acceleration in the intervention context, it's not that you can never remediate. It's not that you can never go back to foundational skills. It's that the vast majority of our time needs to be focused on that coherence towards grade
Yeah.
level mastery. And so for intervention, so again, I know we probably have 2 teachers interested in this conversation. One of them is like you, where you have the gift of being able to have them for a second time.
Yep.
A lot of teachers don't have that in high school, and so they are the intervention teacher and the core teacher. And so
Yes.
I want to address that first. When you find yourself in that situation, doing number talks and number strings for your warm-ups is a great way to hit those foundational skill gaps that students are having with their basic facts. And so I would encourage you to do that. And I would also really push those teachers to once a month or once a unit, like maybe the first day of a new unit, could you take 20 minutes to do some more like foundational stuff that focuses more on number sense instead of memorization and a focus on speed? Instead of putting them
Yeah.
on 99 Math, because I know that's a very popular drill and kill website for secondary teachers,
Okay.
instead of putting them on 99 Math, can you do just a couple of number talks? Could you do a
Yeah.
couple of number strings in that time? Could you find some more conceptual lessons or activities on those foundational skills in order to do that better and differently. Because if drill and kill worked for our kids who are still struggling with foundations in ninth grade, they would have it by now, but they don't.
But they
And
don't.
so the drill and kill is not working for them. We have to think of a different way to explain this to them. But we don't need to obsess over it. That's why I'm saying, could we just talk about it once a unit? You know, could you do
Yeah.
20 minutes once a unit if you're that core teacher that also has so many kids struggling? You have, again, that gift of being able to have them for so much time. So for you, what I would suggest, if you are the additional intervention teacher, whether you're in middle school or in high school, I would say 1 to 2 days a week. Could you
Okay.
work on? So my goal is like, I think for algebra, it's probably 1 day a week, but like, could you make it like fun facts Friday, fluency Friday? I work with like the Colorado Department of Corrections and like their youth corrections. And a teacher there does Throwback Thursday, where she like dresses in like 70s stuff and they do their basic skills on Thursdays. And she makes it really fun. And so things like that, where 1 day a week, can you, as the intervention teacher, dedicate 1 day a week to be that foundational Friday or whatever?
Yeah.
I actually like just created some resources for that. I'll you might already have access in my system, but if not, I will give you access in my system. Because we were all fighting the same battle
Yeah.
of like, how do we do this? And for secondary, I felt like it was always the same things. It's multiplying, it's
Yeah.
multiplication, it's division,
Mm-hmm.
it's adding and subtracting positive and negative
Oh
integers.
my gosh. Don't throw a
It's
negative in there.
understanding what a fraction is. It's adding and subtracting fractions.
Yep.
It's multiplying fractions, dividing fractions, and it's like understanding like percents and decimals.
Yeah. You've nailed
So
it. That's what my Algebra 2 students still struggle with these days.
Yep.
So
Yep, exactly. So I flushed out like this kind of like 8 topic mini resource that has a lesson, a graphic organizer, like that could be used during that like 1 day a
yeah.
week time.
Okay.
And then also like a class activity, a team activity, and a partner activity for each one of the topics. That
Perfect.
can like, the idea is you don't have to use everything. The idea is just, and I would love feedback on it because it's brand new.
Yeah. Always.
And so it's like, what, you know, when you do have that time and you get the ability to do that once a week, maybe, you know, how can we redo their fact fluency in a way that's not about memorization and speed?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love that. And I am very excited to check that out.
Yeah.
100%.
And as a secondary,
Yeah, I was gonna say, even as the rest of my classes are not intervention. I have a whole, the whole other half
yeah,
of my schedule is not intervention. So I still need to find ways to do some of this just-in-time intervention in my regular classes. So I am
yes.
definitely finding opportunities to look at a staircase in multiple levels and see how I can get that built in there. And there's always 20 minutes somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, and we really do feel the pressure, especially if like you are teacher A, where you are the core teacher, you're their only math teacher, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, my kids don't know what a variable is. Yeah, my kids don't know how to plot a point. If that is you, you feel like, oh my gosh, I have so much to get through. And another part of just-in-time intervention that I really detail in the book is you can't get through everything. You have to, step one of just-in-time intervention is to fine-tune your focus.
Yep.
You are only going to be able to get to the things that are truly essential. And we can you can link my just-in-time resources in the podcast notes, because we can look to student achievement partners. We can look to Achieve the Core. They have some guidance on what, when you are strapped for time, what are the things you really need to focus on? And so both intervention and the core with intervention like can really benefit from reading those documents.
Yes, absolutely. And I will definitely link that in here. And I've been writing down, I don't usually write down like timestamps of things, but I was like, I need to know where we've talked about these things because it's August and we've chatted for a hot minute. I'm so glad you convinced me not to do the entire document. You guys, I had so many questions for Juliana and she was like, girl, we're never going to get through that in your podcast length. And she's 100% right. So I'm going to make sure that there's timestamps. So everybody who needs to find out about different nuggets and like where we first started talking about like this stair step or coherence by design or how to use IXL, that's going to be in there for us. And links to all of the resources and your book, which I love, by the way. So I'm very excited. We'll be sharing that. This has been so helpful for me.
Yay.
I appreciate you so much.
It's been so fun. Honestly, I have this conversation one-on-one with so many teachers all the time. I absolutely loved the idea of opening this up on the podcast. Like, I thought that was such a good idea because I know that, like, this is the question that everyone wants to ask.
Yeah. And they don't know how to do it. And they didn't know who to ask. And if they didn't know who already, because they didn't join you for your amazing summit that you hosted with 15,000 math teachers, like
15,000 teachers.
So if you are not one of those 15,000 who joined for that and you were struggling with intervention, now you know. You've now met Juliana and you know she's got a book and she's going to do a summit again. I'm confident. And where else can they find you, Juliana, if they still need help beyond the podcast?
Yeah, come hang out on Instagram. That's where we talk a lot of the time. Also, I'm collaborated.with.juliana. And yeah, I have a free math intervention masterclass on my website that you can head to, just collaboratedwithjuliana.com, and you'll see it on there. And that's a great place to learn more about Math Wars, more about just-in-time intervention. I go into that in a lot more depth in the free masterclass.
Amazing. So good. All right. Well, I am so grateful for your time today, Juliana, and to all of our listeners and viewers out there who are watching us in real time. This has been so fantastic and helpful for me, and I know it has been for others. So thank you so much again, Juliana, and I hope you have an incredible rest of your summer.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, you guys. Until next time, Modern Math Teacher, keep learning. You've never learned enough. Keep an open mind to what you and your students are capable of. And as always, keep it real.